Catch you back there. Okay. It's a little low. Okay. I think that can, I don't like holding this. Peace, family. Peace to the east, the west, north, and the south. I don't know if I can hold you up here. I know I don't want to put you that low, but, you know, Florburn is not used to doing my lives out here. Hold on, family. Okay, I think you're okay. I think you see me okay, right? Might be a little shadowing. I'm sitting underneath like a cover. So if you can see me okay, hopefully that's good. I don't see anyone in here. Okay, okay. Peace to the east, the west, the north, and the south. Welcome to a new topic of discussion. So, peace to all those who joined us on the late night Floor Room After Dark last night. I got a lot of amazing questions and inquiries on my what is it, the emails. Let me know if you can see me okay. I hope you can see me okay. Can everyone see me from the side? You're going to see a little bit of a, because I have a little bit of an angle where there's a little bit of a, what is it called? Like a shadowing effect. So I hope you can. Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. I'm outdoors right now, so I figured I'd do a live regarding this topic. I can't stay on long, but I think it's a very relative topic that we need to discuss, and I think this is going to be a very empowering discussion. Okay, so we're going to get a new topic of discussion. Big up to everyone joining on the live. Now, it looks like it might be hesitant, but it's okay. I'll leave this live up as much as possible. All right, so we're going to talk about the Trinity, the Yoniverse Trinity, and how it interrelates with our interaction with human beings on this earth plane. Okay, Instagram, yeah, my Instagram is not popping up. They're trying to hide me on Instagram. They tried to kick us off a couple of times on Instagram last night. It was off the chain. I burned a bra last night, and it turned into black goo. Right? I was burning bras last night. We were actually releasing some of the pains and released some of our tyranny, our mental attachments to the brassiere. So big up to all those who joined for the bra burning last night. So it kind of stimulates this conversation. Okay. So yeah, it turned into black goo. I actually have the contents outside because it was that toxic. It was a caustic. Still had plastics too, but that lets you know it was a Victoria's Secret bra, one of those $60 bras that they want to charge you an astronomical amount of money to make you encage your breasts, you know. So we talked about it last night. If you want to join, if you want to check out the Instagram, you know, check it out. I think it's still there unless they deleted it already. You know, Instagram is very temporary. I always say if you get something on Instagram, save it if you like it, and you know, because I won't do all that. I just go on Instagram, I share, and when it dissipates and disappears, I just feel like that's okay. Okay, so we're going to get into the Trinity today. We're going to talk about the pineal gland as it is associated with the clitoris, okay? So, women against bras. Pavel, we're going to make a shirt, women against brassieres. Pro-free bosoms, okay? So, okay, so we're going to get into the Trinity and how the pineal gland interrelates with the actual clitoris. Now, this conversation shouldn't be too saucy. I'm going to make it as clinical as possible. But again, I always give mommies, a lot of my stay-at-home mommies, a little bit of heads up because there's little people, and I think this may not be a conversation that would be appropriate for little people. So if you feel like your child is not appropriate, some of the stay-at-home mommies have little ones that are like around 3 or 4, and they start mimicking words. I don't know that you want them to repeat words like clitoris or things like that. So rather than that, put the earbuds in or usher the little ones out of the room, stage left. I always give you the warning so mothers know that the discussion wouldn't be appropriate for little ones. I think for teenagers from anywhere from 12 to 13, I think this may be appropriate, especially for females and males. It gives them a kind of a overstanding of their sexual organs. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Trinity and how it interrelates with the pineal gland. The clitoris interrelates with the pineal gland, and really it's as above, so below. So we have a Trinity above, and the Trinity would be the Trinity above, which is up here, is your hypothalamus. These are the three glands that are your Trinity. So your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, and your pineal gland, which are synergistic to one another. Okay. So when we get into conversations, uh, hold on. Hold on, family. I have a lot of people who are doing some, but hold on. Hold on. I tell you this conversation, something does not want this conversation to happen because even my neighbor came out, was talking to me out of the blue. There's stuff interrupting the feed. So hold on one moment, family. Let me just answer this really quickly. Check on in when you come in. Please put a like on the video as just a common courtesy. Hold on. Okay, so let me respond. I'm sorry, family. I'm triple tasking. I have the conference going underway, so people are still booking today because they were supposed to book. Yesterday was the last day, but I allowed them to book until like the 18th. So people are booking right now. So just give me one moment because I have to give them the information quickly because I don't have time later on today. So I'm multitasking. Okay. I'm sorry, just give me one moment, family. Just check on in, come on in the room. We'll have the discussion in a minute. Just put some likes on the video as you come in as a common courtesy. I'm just going to be with you in one moment. Let me just make sure I respond to everyone that is going to join us for the conference. If you ever notice, I'm really a stickler at responding to people pretty quickly, especially when regards to them doing something with me. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, family. All right. Peace to the east, the west, the north, and the south. I know it's a little close. I'm outside today. And ooh, I'm already rashing up. And we're going to get into the conversation about the Trinity, the Yoniverse Trinity, as above, so below. So I was getting into the aspects of the as above, which is the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the pineal gland. So I'm going to give you an idea of what each of these, what the hypothalamus is, if you don't have an idea what it controls. You know, hypothalamus controls your hunger, your body temperature, your weight, your appetite, your circadian rhythm. What else? Your survival. Okay, this is what the hypothalamus controls. Okay, and the hypothalamus actually has whenever it is out of whack, it's usually from sometimes when we have women that are bleeding a lot, maybe they have some sort of fibroids and they have an excess amount of bleeding. It kind of disrupts your hypothalamus, which controls your hormonal system. If you have inflammation, it can distort your hypothalamus. It can cause distortions. Radiation is a big thing, and that's why a lot of people are having issues, hormonal issues, especially thyroid issue, if they're overexposed to a heightened amount of radiation. Okay, and also infections. Like if you have infections or people who are suffering from perpetual infections that are hampering their immune system, that also will mess with your hypothalamus. Okay, so now when we talk about the hypothalamus, we have the pituitary gland, which is kind of working in sync with the hypothalamus. Okay, so the pituitary gland, as you know, that it has what is it, the anterior and the posterior part of the pituitary gland. I'm just going over the science of it so you get an idea when we talk about as above so below, because when we get into the universe, I want to build a connection to what is connected to your higher self, what's above, and how it's interconnected as below. Okay, so the pituitary gland controls your hormonal system, your it it is interconnected. Oh, a leaf. Look at the leaf just fell here. Hello, that's my tree saying hi. It's interconnected with your pituitary gland, the hypothalamus. So you have the anterior and the posterior. And what you'll notice is that it secretes, your pituitary gland has a lot to do with your secretions of your hormones, okay? Of oxytocin, right? Oxytocin is what is secreted. And usually with the pituitary gland, when we have the secretion of oxytocin, that's usually when we give birth. The mother, it helps us to bond better with our children. It helps us to, it's the birthing process. It helps us to be more calm. It gives us a sense of euphoria. So it helps us to always want to bond with others, and especially with giving birth to children. Okay, so it's interrelated. So you have the anterior and posterior. Okay, so the anterior, which is the internal version of your pituitary gland, that controls your thyroid. So you'll know a lot of times when you guys have hyper or hypothyroidism, they usually test your TSH, okay? And that's what regulates your metabolism, okay? And sometimes they'll test you for your FSH, I think, FSH. And that's a hormone that supports sleep. You know, that's why it's very important for you to get a lot of rest, because that will help to support your pituitary gland, and getting a lot of sunshine, okay? That helps to activate that, all right? So also, now we're going to get into the pineal gland, okay? The pineal gland, which many of you know, we consider it to be the first eye, or the third eye if you're still using that concept. And this is what we have in between there, okay? So it's usually hooded. The pituitary gland is also hooded. And in that pituitary gland, that helps to regulate your, I think it's your, support your development of melatonin. It actually helps you to rest. It also has a synchronistic, symbiotic relationship, obviously, with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. Okay, so what disrupts the pineal gland again are EMF radiation. All right. Fluoride, which calcifies it, which disallows from you having feelings of connection. And one thing that supports the pineal gland, which is a wonderful, there's a couple herbs and a couple tinctures, herbal tinctures that will assist with keeping the pineal gland clear, very robust, healthy. Like neem oil is wonderful for that. Oregano oil, spirulina, chlorophyll. These are wonderful things that help to keep the pineal gland clear and free. So you're able to, boron is a wonderful, also another herb that you can utilize as maintaining your pineal gland. Okay, so when we talk about the Trinity in relation with the Yoniverse, they're almost, there is what is above in a healthy system will also interrelate and interrelate to what is below. Okay, and as we have the Trinity above, we have to get into the concept of having the Trinity below, which is connected to, especially the pineal gland, which is basically interrelated with the clitoris. Okay, the clitoris, what you guys like to call the clitoris. All right, and oh, I took notes also. Hold on, I think I have notes on this. Okay, so we have, obviously, when you look at the yoni, the beautiful Yoniverse, the yoni is what is most sought after on this planet. The yoni is the gateway, the stargate, the portal. Okay, so you know, in between the vulva, in between the lips of the Yoniverse, okay, that opens up into other realms of existence that can actually open up and portal beings through. It's a gift to have a yoni. It is a beautiful, gift and a reminder of who we are intrinsically. And it is a reminder of who the original beings were. As men have one aspect, which many men have what we consider to be the bigger version of the pineal gland, which is the wand, the wand. Some are magic. I don't want to say they're all magic wands, or the penis. Okay, the women have the external version of that, of the pineal gland, but our pineal gland, which is located between your Yoniverse, between your legs, has twice the amount of nerve endings, like 15,000, roughly around 15,000 nerve endings, which is twice the amount of the penis, okay? And that's only, and remember, with all those nerve endings, the amount of stimulation that can occur on a daily basis, if not protected, can be overwhelming. It's also the reason why, to traumatize many women in Africa, they went through the process of getting circumcised. Circumcision of women's clitoris. Is anyone here? I don't know. Okay. Okay, I'm just making sure they're okay. So in order to traumatize the female, they created a ritual of severing the foreskin from the clitoris to mute it and also to traumatize it, so women weren't able to achieve any form of orgasm, and actually they would be less likely to even have any sense of sexual pleasure. Okay, it was a form of abuse, and it's part of the patriarchal system that realized what women's power was, and in order to stultify it and to encapsulate their sexuality, they would circumcise them. Okay, and it's the same for males, especially here in the States. One of the most heinous practices is circumcising our males. And why does that matter? Is because if we know that there's nerve endings to that degree on the penis, magic wand, the phallus, then you understand that once you sever the skin, which is a protection. Now, what is noticeable is the reason why we have foreskins. Nature isn't trying to hurt you, and nature has a grander plan. It has a much more pristine blueprint than the mankind. Okay, so when your child is born, your son is born with his foreskin, he is born perfectly intact. When you sever his foreskin from his penis, what you're doing is you're atrophying him sexually. You're creating a trauma that he will always have embedded in his subconscious, because when a newborn is born, just imagine a newborn is born and they're taken from their parents, and having a stranger utilize tools, basically savage tools, to sever a hood that is meant to protect the penis. Okay, now when you take away the hood, and the hood is, underneath the hood has this thing called cerebrum, which is this wonderful fluid that helps from the hood and creates a wonderful secretion that allows for the hood to stay on nicely and not chafe. When you take off the hood, this secretion is stultified and basically cut off. And every time a young man wears jeans or shorts or underwear, he is perpetually chafing himself, and that is muting his sexuality, muting his sensual stimulation, disallowing him from having healthy connections later on in life to his female counterparts. It's a way to lessen his sensitivity, kind of like make him less connective, because once a man has a shield on his wonderful wand, it will, when it's time for him to engage physically with a female, it will allow for him to feel a multitude of emotions and also bonding with the female more so. So men who are more sensitive have a wonderful heightened amount of sensory, and also it allows for them to hold on to the pheromones of the female to remind him of specific females that he's engaging with, that will perpetually keep him mating with those. Okay, so it helps him to bond. Okay, so when we talk about the Trinity as above, so below, it is very relative that we need to discuss this, especially with our young sea stars that are engaging sexually with males, and males to know that the very gift, the very privilege of being able to engage with the Stargate, with the Yoni space, is a privilege. And as time has gone on and people have been traumatized and programmed to view the Yoni space, the woman's Trinity below, see it as basically a playground to engage with without any sense of connectivity, or without any sense of acknowledging the true power and the privilege to engage within realms of a portal that can allow other beings to portal through. Okay, so when we talk about that, we're talking about the Yoniverse. And what I'm seeing nowadays, especially in the millennial, and it's not just the millennials, it's my generation too, it is a disregard and a lack of understanding of the power between your between your legs, and how that power is being utilized by the partnerships that we're choosing in ways that are archaic, savage, and abusive. Okay? So it's very necessary for us, especially our younger sea stars, to understand the beauty and the privilege you have when engaging with any males, and what happens when you engage with males that are lacking in empathy, lacking in connectivity, that have been traumatized through their own forms of trauma-based circumcision, and engaging with them in a way that would disregard the very nature between the two, the yoni and the wand, okay, the phallus. So a couple of the sea stars were contacting me, and they were just telling me things that were going on in the relationships and their engagements with males, and the interactions that were falling flat from being satisfying, and how this interconnects to us being abundant, because the original female on this planet was ambiguous. Okay, she was ambiguous, meaning that she was androgynous, meaning she didn't need to outsource to create life. She was able to basically replicate herself through the process of parthenogenesis. Now, if you think this is crazy, I suggest you look it up. It's a fact. Women, at the original woman on this planet, and it was all a female planet at one time, they were hermaphroditic, and they were able to replicate themselves through the process of parthenogenesis, usually based on seasonal stimulation. The sperm was stored in the bone marrow upon certain phases of the moon, or being in a certain disposition on the geographical ley lines. She was able to stimulate her own replication and give birth to what you consider to be cloning. Cloning is the bootleg version of what the original female did on this planet. Cloning is the ciphering of the same biotechnology that women, the original women on this planet, were able to engage in. Okay, so when I have my sea stars contacting me and saying they're having unfulfilling sexual liaisons with the males that they're partnering with, they're unable to achieve even a basic pre-forms of organ energy, and unable to even achieve that. We have to start to have a discussion about the basic programming of the matrix and the patriarchal, MK Ultra system that was created to stultify the female energy, disallow her from knowing and acknowledging who and what she is, and for males and other beings to cipher off of that energy and to have more benefits than even the female that carries the actual StarGate, that you should be able to have access to the gifts. And I don't want to call them gifts, because it's not really gifts, it's intrinsically who you are. You should be able to access points of abundance through your yoni gate. Your yoni gate has access to all realms and all certain universes and certain my gosh. Your Yoniverse has access to different points of reference on different timelines, different dimensions, and different galactic locations. Now, depending on the female and her genetics, the females that are part of the originals on this planet have more points of reference. So their portals can carry beings from other Sirius, from the Orion, parts of the Orion belt. As far as going to Alpha Centaurian, you can pull in that type of energetic celestials within and pull them in, portal them through your Yoni gate, because you have those points of references within your own DNA. Okay, and that's why them homogenizing people or genetically hybriding people matters, because depending on who you're hybriding with, this is how the dark Kabbalists are able to bring dark beings onto this world, especially if they are hybriding with females that have the lineage of the Draconians or the Insectilians, because that DNA will allow those type of frequency beings or interdimensional beings to be able to portal through that female and give them access through her portal and StarGate. Okay, so This being said, you know, a lot of the sea stars were contacting me, and the number one question they were saying, they were engaged in, you know, sexual liaisons with males that were seemingly detached, emotionally unavailable. And what's interesting about that is there is an interconnection between us allowing unworthy beings to interact with our yoni space, and the lack that you will begin to take on from having liaisons with beings who are ciphering off of you, number one, without your proper consent, your conscious consent, and also them taking your abundance. Basically, when they cipher from you, if you're sexually engaged with someone who is financially limited, okay, let's just say that. We'll use matrix terms. Financially limited, capped in consciousness. Maybe they're prejudiced, maybe they're archaic, and they have certain behavioral patterns that are limiting them in their own personal lives, and then you allow them access to your yoni space. What happens is that that being is plugging in to your opening, okay? And I'm wondering why this is not working. I don't even know. I might have to. I don't see anyone on here, and this is crazy because I know you're there. Is anyone there? Okay, you guys are here. Okay, I'm just making sure because I'm not seeing. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm trying to get it all out because I only have a little while longer. Okay, so when you engage with a being who has a limited or capped consciousness, meaning they're suffering from their own forms of limited programming, and they are stultified in abundance, meaning that they have a cap based on their own prior behavior, because remember, everything is relative. How someone behaves, or what the things that they do, if they're users, if they aren't respectful of the divine, if they aren't respectful of their own bodies, they will be capped usually. And abundance is linked to limitation, because limitation happens in all different arenas. But when someone's limited in mindset, they will be capped financially. Okay, so if you're engaged with a male or a female, but more so a male, who is limited in resources and limited in frequency, what happens is when they cipher off of you, they can pull your abundance, especially if you're clear and clean, if you're clearing yourself, if you're clearing your yoni, if you're eating well, if you're basically an energetic light bulb. They can cipher off of your energy. And sometimes what happens is you see a lot of these wonderful light working women engage with males that are depreciative, and the males start to gain light and abundance and attractiveness, and the female starts to be depreciated and become more stultified and ends up being atrophied because of her engagement with a parasitic male who isn't of her frequency. So now he's stripping her of her light force and her abundance, and he's utilizing it even unconsciously. He's pulling because he's a plug, and the plug means when he plugs into your Stargate, he is basically getting surges of energy. Okay, if he's healthy and he's plugging something in to the wall and it's feeding into the wall, it's giving an even exchange, then the woman can actually pull from the frequency and allow for his gifts and abundance to be able to surge into her and be able to access those higher frequencies. But when there's a depreciative amount of energy and an unequal amount of frequency exchange, then what happens is one is being vampired off of, and the other is being basically a source of energy, and the other one is taking that and pulling it for themselves. Okay, so a lot of the sea stars were saying they were, mating with these archaic males, and they were seeing a limitation in their lives and seeing that anytime they engage with these males, and this is where yonis matter. We have to become more conscious of who and what we are. It's not to say that every woman is great, because that isn't true. That we're not saying that every woman is the perfected version of goddesshood. That isn't true. But what we have to say is to be born with both your pineal gland, which is your clitoris, and the basic Stargate, you have access point that males don't have. So they have to go to you in order to replicate themselves. And if in fact the energies change on the planet, a woman who has both the Stargate and the clitoris can naturally fertilize herself eventually once the energies match. Males will always need a female to order to replicate themselves. That being said, you have a more advanced disposition based on the fact that you were made purposefully and intricately in a way that you were self-efficient as far as creating energy and being able to build your own energy and manifest whatever you want. That's why sexual rituals are being utilized by a lot of these Satanists, these Luciferians, a lot of these archaic new Satanists that are online. You hear a lot of these pseudo-conscious males having sex rituals with women, ciphering off of their energy, taking their free will, and women are consciously sometimes giving their energy to these males to allow the males to engage and to build off of their frequency that they themselves should be able to access first. You shouldn't be giving from your till when you're already depleted and giving to another person who has zero to exchange with you. It's an unnatural exchange, and there is a consequence to that. Usually women who are engaged in unequal and unnatural forms of mating usually end up having cystic issues, fibroids that are created from mental disturbances and traumas from childhood, from having disconnection from their fathers. This all plays into the health of the female if she isn't allotted to know who and what she is. Okay? So if you know who you are and you are able to preserve just your own energy, you can manifest by knowing that as above, so below. Your portal, along with your pineal gland, which is your clitoris between your legs, by the nature of having both, you can utilize your own organ energy in order to manifest abundance. Abundance will come easily and effortlessly to you if you accept that. But if you are mindlessly and chaotically mating with downgraded or limited human beings, you will perpetually be in a suffrage, in a victimhood, and there will be a point where you won't be able to cipher off of any healthier male because you've already depleted your entirety of your steerage. And then eventually, even if you get a male within the frequency that can actually give you or be able to exchange with you a frequency to replenish you, you will be already limited and your cup will be capped based on you being so atrophied that now you aren't able to pull in that frequency or that abundance. And, people say, oh, Flurburn, you're so judgmental. How could you say, you're saying people being broke is a problem. Being limited resource-wise is a sign that you are capped consciously. Because in this universe, everything is easily accessed because that is the way the universe is set up. We have a plentiful of food and resources and everything that is required and needed and wanted, so long as we aren't getting in our own way and capping our own forms of receival of abundance. Okay? But when you are choosing by your own free will standards to take on others and feed vampires and perpetually disallow yourself from having a proper feeding yourself, building your own nutritional base, gaining your own abundance, then what happens is that you will always see from the disposition of a victim and not a victor. Okay? So when you are engaging with males, if you are finding that your abundance is depleting, that is a sign that you are sleeping with an atrophied wand that is limited and vampiric. That is why you see, and it's interesting because I come from a world where you see women who are dating athletes or, they date celebrities, and people say, oh, well, they're gold diggers. Those are women. But are they really gold diggers, or is their self-esteem intact? And they realize that frequency matters. Because if someone's abundant, it says something about their consciousness and about their self-esteem. Limited abundance means that there is trauma based in their consciousness that disallows for them to be able to gain natural forms of exchange. Okay? So when women are sleeping with these, like yesterday we were hanging with the NBA people with my little one. Now, some of the NBA gentlemen, you always see these groupies go to the places and they're always looking for husbands. Is that wrong for them to do that? To know that they have their gift of self, that they themselves are also in a form of self-love, and that they deserve to be with someone who can, that can exchange a form of abundance, exchange something that can place them in a position of comfort. Now we have to be careful, because women that are unaware about themselves will only cipher off of males that are wealthy for a purpose of material gain solely, and that's where it's unhealthy, because looking at men as a source of income as opposed to a source of frequency will cap you in another way. That's why a lot of celebrity wives, or football, basketball wives, are suffering from, embarrassment, or feeling less than, feeling as a subpar to their partnerships, because the reason why they chose their partnerships was solely for one aspect, and they ignore the multitude of other parts of frequency and abundance that comes along with that. Mating with someone just for materialism is a sin, and there is a consequence to them. Embarrassment, feeling insecure, feeling codependent. That all comes from being ciphering off of one person for that reason. Now, where I say they have healthier self-esteem, because they have a knowledge that they themselves are deserving of abundance. But in order to gain healthy abundance, you have to have that within yourself. By totally, like, men will cipher off of women that are sexy, that they just want sexually to make their egos feel bigger. Women sometimes will get with men to make their pockets a little bigger, and there is a sinful, and that is an imbalance, and that is what the matrix will perpetuate, because it doesn't want you to know that everything should be balanced. If you're attracted to a mate, let's say a female, you should be attracted to him based on him matching your own frequency. So if you're healthy financially, and you're pretty astute in how you show up in the world, as far as how you gain resources, how you take care of yourself hygienically, how your health is, you should also get with a mate that matches it and slightly can exceed it. Okay? And by doing so, you should be attracted to your mate. So physical attraction means everything, because phenotypes matter. If you're physically attracted to someone and you see them as being appealing, that's a form of healthiness. If you see that they're living a life that matches you, frequency vibrationally, that's also a form of healthiness. If you see that in their lives they would be a benefit, or they would bring cohesion, or just comfortability, because they're comfortable, you're comfortable, that's balance. Okay, that's when you're choosing your partnerships from a basis of a holistic point of view, as opposed to just picking one thing that you like. Like, she's sexy, I love the way she looks, I love the way I slay her, I love the way she makes me come. Excuse me, I hope the babies aren't in here. I already gave the forewarning. Please have the baby step out of the room. This is an adult conversation. And again, I don't have that much longer, and I probably have to have this conversation a little longer, a little later, and extend on this. What was I saying? If she's sexy, or she looks amazing, she just stimulates your lower chakra, your root. Every time you have sex with her, but as soon as you have sex with her, your attraction for her diminishes, because there isn't anything along with it. It is an unnatural, capped form of interrelation that is devoid of actual balance. And this is where the yoni matters. So when you're choosing a partnership, now I know, I have known females, and we'll talk about this. I've known females who only choose partners that are wealthy, and they aren't attracted to them. That is not their general type. You see a woman who's what the matrix standards would be attractive. She chooses a partnership of a man she wouldn't be attracted to phenotype wise, because she sees him as a resource rather than a partner. So she will ignore the non-attractiveness of him to gain resources fiat wise. And she also, usually females like that will have limited amount of females around them that are competitive in how they look. I also know unhealthy females by the friends. If you look like a beautiful flower and all of you do, because your frequency denotes your how you show up in the world. All of you do. I see you, see stars. All of you are beautiful. Every phenotype on here, every country, every tongue. I see you look amazing. You do. Every one of you. From your beautiful coily furry hair that goes up to the stars like a beautiful tree, picking up that frequency of the sun, from your beautiful coils going down to the ground, picking up the frequencies from the inner earth, from your beautiful golden shimmers in your hair that interrelates to you from the different zones and different frequencies. You're all beautiful, okay? But when you choose, when I know an unhealthy female, when I see her, and this isn't a judgment, this is an observation, she won't have other females who look as flourishing as her, as robustly beautiful in frequency, or as far as phenotype as her. She will choose to stay as the only luminous one and choose a husband or a mate that looks lesser than what, you know, matrix standards would consider attractive. Somebody that she wouldn't find attractive, but she sees him only from his resource balance. Those are vampires. Be leery of them and avoid them at all costs. Anyone who has that kind of disposition of vampiring, and it's very consciously done, that's what the Masons do, that's what a lot of these occultists do. They see people as resources. Those are people you should evade, avoid, and keep at a distance from your family dynamics. They are unhealthy, and they will have a bigger karmic debt because they will come back as people that are unattractive. You ever see women that come back as super, what the Matrix considers to be really unattractive, and they're always suffering from their form of low self-esteem? That comes from coming from lifetimes where they were the prettiest one in the room, and they utilized their beauty as a way to cipher or abuse or to put themselves on a higher pedestal to the depreciation of their spirituality. Okay? Those are the ones who come back as what we consider to be in this lifetime as the lesser attractive, just by matrix standards, because attractivity is whatever's promoted or whatever's, promoted or projected out in the matrix. Okay? And then you have males who will choose females for the opposite reason. See, this is where it's imbalanced, and you will see it on females and males. You will see males who choose women that only look an amazing way. They look phenomenally physically, but they're capped because they have zero spirituality. They may not even be nice people. They might be very abusive in their own family dynamics, very emotionally unavailable. But the males will choose them based on only phenotype attractiveness, only on a very low root chakra, how they make them feel about themselves, how looking and being with that female feels. That's where you get males a lot of times who are 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, picking young females. Those are vampires. Okay? A man in his 50s, 60s, and 70s that's with a 20 and 30-year-old women, that's a form of vampirism. And that is something that should be avoided. And if you're a grandmother or a mother and you have young ladies who you are rearing in your household, you should always give them fair warning of avoiding males that are vampires. Any 50-year-old man that's with a 20-something-year-old woman, that is a sign that he is atrophied in his consciousness, he is capped in the level of his intellect, and he is utilizing her youth as a form to uphold himself and build himself up because he is lacking. Being with someone who's out of balance with you on a spiritual level and also on a what we consider to be the physical level is a sign that you haven't gained spiritual evolution enough to be able to balance yourself out. Okay? So be mindful of that also. And I always say this to the grandmabuelas and to the aunties and to the big sisters, you should give fair warning. I always give fair warning to our young ones. If you have 50-year-old men that are trying to kick it to you or talk to you, that is a sign something's wrong with him. Because a healthy man wants to be around women of the same vibration. If he has a problem being in alignment with women of the same vibration, it means that he has some conscious caps on him. And he is trying to vampire off of your youth in order to uphold a certain standard and build himself up. And best believe you are just as replaceable, because after he's with you for a while, there will be another young Phil, because vampires always have to get new, fresh blood. Okay? So there'll be another one. So let's go back to the yoni space and you manifesting different forms of abundance. The yoni, a healthy Yoniverse will be able to build, tear down, co-create an environment that's cohesive, that's healthy, and that's abundant. when you're healthy. Do you require a male or female to do this? I mean, a male or female? Absolutely zero. You can do this on your own. Actually, I recommend that if you're a healthy female and you know your self-worth, especially when going through this transition, and there isn't a male of love or attraction that is balanced or in your frequency, that being within yourself holistically, like your ancient sisters were, that were replicating themselves, who had unions that were beyond physical interaction, that were higher in the way that we united and we connected with one another, you have more of a chance to living an abundant life than being with an atrophied male who is vampiric, whose wand is a perpetual will create leagues of dooms within your womb. Okay, so how do we access these points of reference with our Yoniverse? Utilizing the Trinity as above. Your pineal gland, which is right between your beautiful legs, and it has more nerve endings, and it is beautifully sheathed unless you've been circumcised, unfortunately. You have 15,000 nerve endings that literally will stimulate your endocrine system to be able to field an energetic vortex that could co-create anything. This is why sexual rituals are utilized, and this is why males love to engage with multitude of young females who are unaware of the power between their beautiful legs. But, oh, okay, let me make sure I'm, okay, hold on. Okay, I have a couple more minutes, hold on. Let me just tell my friend I'll be a half an hour later, hold on. I like to be on time. Okay. Whew. All right. Okay. Yeah, the pineal gland is the first eye. It's the eye that sees through the etheric veil. We don't even have a veil anymore. So it's basically how you see, but also with as above, so below. In between your beautiful legs, you have your pineal gland, which is interconnected to the same endocrine system that is connected to your crown. So it all fields in together. If you're unhealthy in your head, you're going to be unhealthy in your sexual vibrancy. Okay, so if you notice that the beautiful sheath on top of your clitoris, it protects the beautiful nerve endings. And if you aren't masturbating with toys or electromagnetic toys that are muting you and desensitizing you down there, you should have a healthy clitoris. For the same reason that we clear out our pineal gland up here, you have to be just as protective of your pineal gland between your legs. So if you are utilizing these tools of mass destruction that are muting your sensory, that is a gift from the gods, then I know, I'm sorry, monkey, monkey king, this is a conversation for adults. And I say, if you have little people, make sure, you know, this is something that was stimulated from us burning the bras last night. A lot of sea stars were sharing their journey with me, and I feel like this is a gift that I can give you from what I know, only from what I know. There are other things that I want to learn more of, but there are certain things that I've known and gained through my own wisdom, my own studies, and people that I've interrelated with that have a plethora more knowledge than I. And Dr. Don is also going to come into sex health and how it interrelates. I'm going to have him on the show again. So the pineal gland between your legs is, yes, this will stay on. I'll keep this on unless they start messing with this. Then I'll just put it on. The pineal gland between your legs has over 15,000 nerve endings. This helps to build the field, co-create the field, and actually be able to manifest whatever desires are required or that you match. If you are a masterful sea star and you understand this, you will start to begin to access your own pineal gland there. And like I said, I was interrupted. Like I said, with the electromagnetic tools that many of the young ladies are using with the I don't know, they're called the rabbit, jackrabbit, I don't know, all you guys have all these masturbation tools. These have EMF waves, and that radiation will distort, just like the radiation messes with your pituitary gland and it atrophies your pineal gland. It does the same to your clitoris. So if you're perpetually using things to masturbate and that electromagnetic field is distorted, every time you have an orgasm, you're basically disallowed from actually being able to fully take on your orgone energy and manifest what you hear the helicopters? Manifest what you desire. A healthy female who is actually mastered her orgasm, and is able to utilize visualization within her solitude of engaging with herself, can actually manifest a healthy amount of abundance. I know healthy females who are engaged in this well, and they're all wealthy. When I say wealthy, means they're living healthy, they're doing what they desire, their life is matching, their visual is matching, who they engage with is matching, they're balanced in all matters. Okay, they're abundant in that they have access to higher forms of food and nutrition. They have freedom of time, and they're abundant in time and resources. They're allotted to have people around them that will help to maintain this healthy homeostasis, because those people are living in abundance forever. For whatever reason they're abundant, she's matching people who are abundant. So the very people that are in her very circle, if she has any, will always be in abundant frequency. Okay, so I can tell who someone is by their limitations a lot of times. Okay, so yes, frequency matters. And if you are able to clear yourself, return your first eye, your pineal gland between your leg back to its healthy homeostasis, you can access your own portals and be able to manifest anything that is matching your present day frequency, and sometimes superseding, depending on your level of imagination and your acceptance that you are a God being who has a Stargate. This is what many men want and they desire, and this is why they're trying to hijack the wombs, trying to harvest wombs and trying to put them in beings that don't have wombs. It's a jealousy and it's an envy, and there isn't anything wrong with them admiring our power. But if you notice that all these beings want to be you, beautiful sea stars, there are beings that are having surgeries to be you. There are beings who actually would take your place in a heartbeat. You have to know that means how special and how wonderfully unique and powerful you are. Take what you have intrinsically and naturally and utilize your own frequencies and power of manifestation with your own Stargate and your portal to manifest the life that you want that you want to exist in. That's why safety of the pole shift, that's unnecessary if you know yourself. In your heightened awareness, you'll be exactly where you need to be at the time you need to be there. You'll have every resource at your hands to be able to manifest a level of security by knowing and being in heightened awareness. Okay? So how do you access this level of portaling? I'm not going to do this online because this is information that I don't think is appropriate for anyone, because you have males also who are based in occultism, lower level warlocks who love to listen to this conversation so that they can manipulate the information and utilize it as a form of vampiring off of females more. And we have enough of our sea stars right now that are being ciphered off of. So I won't give any tools, and I certainly won't give any weaponry to further diminish some of our sea stars' energy. You have to start to gain that yourself. So if you are engaged in sexual liaisons with men that are limited financially, you are already losing the battle of your abundance. You're basically giving him free cash. Your frequency, fiat. What is money? It is a form of abundance. It is frequency. Okay, so if he is limited in when men have a lot of what is it called? What is it called when a man has a lot of my mother says this. I don't know the English for it. He has a lot of I can't. I want to tell you the word because it matters. Okay. he hasn't any, my mother says this a lot. He hasn't any drive. Okay, drive. Sorry, it's drive. It's bravado, but it's drive. My mother says that a lot. She doesn't like men that don't have drive. Because my father was, we only knew men in our family that were like that. Drive. No, it's drive. When a man is lacking in drive, meaning that in his own world, now devoid of, taking away from him interacting with you, in his own world, he doesn't have a drive to want to be in higher planes of existence. He doesn't have a drive to keep himself healthy and to sustain himself to his highest capacity. He hasn't any drive to foresee and project himself in the future in higher realms of existence, meaning, you know, seeing himself living abundantly, coexisting in a way that he has more freedom, more time, more resources. If he hasn't that basic drive, then that is a sign that he will be vampiric, even if it isn't purposefully done. I'm not saying that every male that's engaged who's limited financially is going at females and saying, oh, I want to vampire off of her. That's, most of them are unconscious. They're unconsciously vampiring. Okay? It's just like friends who like to vampire off other friends. Okay? They're unconsciously doing it. But he knows that every time he sleeps with you, he gets a high. Every time he sleeps with you, his oxytocin goes up. Every time he sleeps with you, his job, everything that in his life tends to be more embellished, heightened, the things that he comes at. I remember one C-star slept with this guy and he won lotto. Like, he slept, this was a man, he wasn't low, but he was limited, he was capped. And she had sex with him, like she was a goddess. She had sex with him and the next day he won like $10,000. This happens, and it's not by chance. It's because her energy was so much superseding his frequency that when he was vampiring off of her, he was able to pull from her frequency, and it was such a grasp because they both had orgasms. So he used his orgasm, her orgasm, and the explosion together allowed for him to pull in and hold it. And when he did something of manifestation that he desired, he could have been thinking about that when he was having sex with her. Like, I'm going to go play this lotto ticket. He could have had that. He didn't really realize he had that, and maybe he did. And this is where you have to be mindful of sleeping with occultists. Sometimes a man will act as if he's not part of the occult. You have these high masons who are having sex with, we consider to be average females, or some of the goddess females. They aren't denoting to you that they're warlocks or they're occultists. And they very well know that their plan is to cipher off, especially if you're higher in frequency. You know, the higher level is the higher devil. So the higher up you go is the higher beings that want to engage with you in order to cipher off of you. So you're not going to get a low level demon. You will get a high grandstanding mason who will end up having sex with you. He won't tell you about how many rituals he does. He won't tell you about him meeting up with the brotherhoods during different phases of the moon. That isn't your business. You haven't done your due diligence to even research this character long enough in the etheric and in the physical world to know what he does on his free time, okay? Or the time he is allotted for rituals. He can very much utilize your energy, and next thing you know, if you're having sex, now this is another thing, C-stars. If you're engaged with any males and you are tired, one thing I will say, anytime I'm engaged with and I haven't had a multitude of lovers because I was married for so long, so I can only talk from the very few that I've engaged with, very few, less than a handful. It's just what it is, and I'm okay with that. You know, when I was younger, I was like, I don't have a lot of, you know, but I've been with men for long periods of time. But one thing I always noticed when I was with males, I would always have bursts of energy because I was properly exchanging with them. And if they're feeling tired, you have to be careful, females, our wonderful sun stars, because females that are masterful in the occult know how to pull from you. That's a whole nother conversation. And there's a lot of YouTubers, males in the occult, that will have seminars and conversations about females that are basically ciphering off of males. So if you are having sex with her sun stars, and she has a burst of energy, and you feel like you have to get knocked out, like basically you got to go to sleep right away, chances are it's an uneven exchange. You should both feel empowered if you're balanced. You should also feel like hold on. I'm sorry. Okay. You should feel magnanimous, and so should he. Okay? That's a balanced exchange. Okay? So let's go back to the masterful clitoris, the masterful Yoniverse. What can be done with your clitoris? How can you keep it healthy? How can you protect it? How can you access greater intel and access to higher, more points of reference in different portals from different celestial locales? This is how you do it. First, you have to overstand, understand, and understand who and what you are. You have to realize as a female you are capable, if you have a certain gene type, especially if you're from um, the heirloom mitochondriac on this planet, that you can basically um, replicate yourself when the planet changes frequency. You're already set up to be self-sustaining. Okay. Now, if you understand your power and what is the special part of your universe, you'll also realize that if you are engaged with men that you can't foresee them as being fathers to your offspring, and you are doing it to service a a very archaic form of expression, there will be a consequence to that. Okay? So if you're sleeping with a man that isn't someone you intend to be the father of your child, even if it doesn't happen, or it isn't your intent to have a child, it already means that you're out of sync. Every time men and female, sun stars and sea stars, any person that you're engaging with physically, sexually, should be someone that you foresee as the father of your children and they foresee you as the mother of their children. It is a fact. If you're engaging with them for any other reason and if they get pregnant, it would ruin your entire life. It is already telling you that you're out of balance, you're out of whack, and you're utilizing sex as a form of drug abuse, or as a form of gaining some self-esteem, or utilizing it for archaic reasons. And you need to make sure that you check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay? Any partnership that I have engaged with physically, sexually, I know that that is somebody I would be okay having their child, giving birth to their offspring. Okay? That's number one. If the man that you're attracted to isn't somebody that you can foresee as that, you should rethink it, halt from mating with them, and keep it moving. Number one, archaic mating is detrimental to your health, your overall health. Number two, making sure that you're eating healthy, especially with your clitoris. Make sure that you aren't wearing pads, bleach pads with a formaldehyde, like things like Stay Free, maxi pads, all of these things that have formaldehyde. We talked about that last night. One of the Sea Stars was bringing that up. I haven't used one of those for over 15 years. I don't even think I used it, maybe 20. No, 15, because 15 is when I started using, it's called natural pad, okay? What happens is when you're getting your menses and you're putting these archaic forms of chemicalization on top of your clitoris, you're also doing what you would do with your pineal gland if you were calcifying it. You're breaking the biochemical nature of your clitoris. It will make you more numb, harder for you to achieve an orgasm, and also it will disallow from you from accessing points of organ energy in order to manifest the things that you really desire. Okay, so making sure that you aren't putting formaldehyde bleached chemicalized forms of menses pads on you. Also being mindful to stay away from toilet papers and things of that nature that also have that same effect. Bleaches on toilet papers. I talked about bamboo toilet paper. Toilet paper matters. Okay, if you're wiping yourself, if you have a bidet, some people have bidets that have, or I'm a fan of bidets as long as it has a filter on it that allows for the water to be fresh and clear, that actually sprays your yoni space, keeps it nice and clean without using archaic paper that has particles that end up going inside of your uterine area. Okay, they're very inexpensive online. You can get a bidet, I think they're called something else, and you can get a filter attached to it. Okay, that's another form of protection. Now, underwear matters. All our sexy underwear, all these thongeries, thong, da, thong, thong, thong. Let me see your booty go. Let me see your booty go. Remember that crazy video with what's his name? I forgot that name. You know, he had the blonde hair. He already been MK Ultra. He doesn't even like women. He's talking about thong, the thong, the thong. He didn't even like women. And be careful of listening to men that aren't engaged with women. Cisco, thank you. If men are not engaged with women, and then it's not their propensity, it's not taking away from any men's advice, but be careful listening to the advice of men that are only engaged with other men. They don't have the same propensities. Them engaging with males, male on males, will disallow from them from giving proper advice to you based on the fact that they're engaged in the same sex with the more domineering sect, okay? Because men on men, remember, men were in home court advantage. So men engaging with men, they have a totally different perspective. Be careful listening to gay men telling you how you should engage with your yoni. That is not their business to discuss. They can be a friend to you. They can give advice on the people maybe you should not be engaging with, but rather than them telling you what you should do with your yoni, that is something that is only for women to engage with other women in discussion. And also be careful with going to platforms where men are talking about your yoni. That is a sisterhood conversation. Only a divine mother can give you advice based on your yoni. When you're listening to a male who's capped in the consciousness of the womb space, he will give you advice based on his own programming, okay? So be careful of that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't listen and maybe gain some gems, but be careful overall giving them that much power and information over your yoni space. That's how they infiltrated the sisterhood before, okay? Now, underwear, yes, underwear matter. Wearing thongs, wearing underwear that has a lot amount of chemicalization and dyes, that is absolutely something that will cause issues with your beautiful pineal gland between your labia, your clitoris. It's a beautiful thing to have zero underwear, or if you have underwear, it's very porous. It is natural. Okay. I think that's my twin. Okay, I have a couple more minutes. My twin is over here. Hey, babe. Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. So, okay, what was I saying? So underwear matters. So staying away now. People are like, well, the Polynesians wore thongs, Flurbrun. The Polynesians wore thongs. Who else did they tell me? The Africans wore thongs. Just because people were doing it doesn't mean it's healthy. Remember, the planet has been colonized for a long period of time. A lot of even what we deem to be the ancient practices or costumes that were worn were influenced by archaic, or not archaic, by other worldly beings that didn't have the same sexual disposition or the physiology of people from the earth. Okay, so even though you see people engage in what we deem to be ancient times, because remember, our information is capped. You only hear information that's pro of whatever is being projected or the programming. Okay, so if you say, oh, the Polynesians wore thongs, where was that first influence? Why was that something that was allowed? Okay, and a woman wearing a thong and a man wearing a thong are two different things. Okay, it's very different. But when you have a perpetual reminder in your anal cavity that is not meant to be stimulated, because around the anal cavity has a host of nerves. And it's just like I tell you that there's a reason why there's a sheath over your clitoris and over the penis and over your pineal gland. There's a reason why your anal cavity has bum-bums that are closed and not open. Do you understand? So nature doesn't lie, and nature doesn't do things that would atrophy the natural human. Humans are born naturally the way they are. So if you have a buttocks that is closed and you're putting a line that's always chafing on something that has that many nerve endings, you're already creating an imbalance within you. Okay? So just saying underwear matter. I would prefer you wear long skirts and have a little more breeze going in your yoni space, because the yoni space also gets information from the inner earth. Okay, so when we keep our yoni nice and free and clear without barriers, you have less yeast infections, you have less atrophy of your clitoris, which is your first eye, your pineal gland between your legs, and you allow for better manifestation of whatever it is you desire in your matrix. Okay. What else? Okay, so healthy. Okay, yoni steaming is wonderful too. But now in this day and age, can you put, okay. For those stepping in the room, I know I'm starting, I know some of you are coming in. Make sure you put a like on the video just as a general courtesy, stepping in the room. And to let me know that this topic is relative to what you desire. Sometimes I don't leave. This is sometimes a topic I won't do live on YouTube. If I see that people like it, I may discuss it a little more. This I'll leave on private arenas. Like if this is not something that you guys like, by all means, I don't mind putting it on private because maybe it isn't something that most people want to hear about or they even think is relative to their daily lives. And it's everybody has their own way that they engage in this world. So if this is something that you desire and like, putting a like on a video also lets me know that these are topics that are relative to the things that you want to hear about. Okay. What else? Okay, so we have yoni steams, which are wonderful, clearing out your yoni, because once you engage with males that are archaic or atrophied themselves, you need to pull out their frequencies, because a lot of males, especially if they are capped in consciousness and they are suffering from forms of limitation of frequency, and also that shows up as limitations in abundance, they have deities attached to their wands, and as they're sexually, ciphering off of you, they also leave happy dandy gifts for you. Now, sexually transmitted demons are exactly STDs. Sexually transmitted demons are deities that are attached to those males that they give and they lend to you. And sometimes you can get rid of them and sometimes you can't. Thank you, YOLO. I appreciate it, Mama. Thank you. 1313. So make sure that, if a male is having trouble manifesting in his own life, that isn't a male you should want to engage with sexually. You should be with males that have a great amount of self-esteem, that have a lot of drive for their own life, not for you, for their own life. They're driven in their own life to do better for themselves. Healthy amount of self-esteem also details a higher frequency, and it also allots for them being able to build you also gaining from engaging with them and mating with them, and also perpetuating their offspring. Okay, making sure that you again aren't allowing for males to have oral sex with you. Now, I'm not going to go into that. I think I did that on Patreon. Can you guys remind me? I think I talked about oral sex. Oral sex and disallowing. There isn't any male that I would ever allow to go and stimulate me orally if he had any issues with manifestation, and also if he is a vampire, because the more vampiric a man is, the more that he wants to put his face in your yoni space. Okay, because there's another way to cipher off of males. Males have learned that from the divine feminine, and we went into the white tigress. Okay, remember I think I did the series on the white tigress. There is a practice that the ancient women did that had to do with ciphering off of men's energy through the process of the system of the white tigress, which is an ancient tantric engagement that some of the Asian sect. Okay, and because of that, when you are allowing a man to stimulate you, because when he's going down on you, if he actually is able to make you achieve organ energy, he will pull that in and he will be able to speak spells into you. You got to be careful with that too. Occultists also use that as a form of control. So if a man is always wanting to engage with you, now mind you, that's a beautiful thing too. We're not saying that's negative. It can be both. But you have to be careful, because if he pulls in your essence, he'll be able to spell you. Okay, that's also a way that some of the occultists utilize, by utilizing forms of that as a form of mind control. Okay, so when he pulls in your essence, by the nature of it being its essence, when he speaks to you and commands to you, he is able to sidebar your synapses and be able to get behind your subconscious and be able to influence you. It's the same thing with having men access you through the anal cavity. Any anal sex, a lot of times anal sex is a portaling, but it is a negative ion portaling because it is excrement. So it has a negative effect. So when they're portaling, when you're having anal sex, you can also access points of reference of, that's why that many of the cultists utilize having anal sex with young boys and little girls as a way to get into a form of their mind, which is kind of like hidden and compartmentalized, and utilize them to access, put information in, and to be able to hide it from the person that they're doing it to. Okay, that's where you get these people who will show up places they don't know how they showed up there. They smell like cigarettes. Sometimes they've been compartmentalized. They've been accessed by an occultist or somebody who's into that programming system, and they don't even know that information has been installed into their brain via through the anal cavity. That's a whole nother thing. I'm not even getting as wonderfully vetted into that conversation as I should. That deserves a whole nother form of. That's why I tell you, anal sex is something that you shouldn't ever engage with. It is an excrement point, and it is utilized to be able to access points of reference in your brain to compartmentalize you, and also to unnaturally stimulate the opening of your to via go through your serpent to the part of your chakra system in order to prematurely give you like a expansion kundalini, like, oh yeah, automatically give you like a kundalini rising unnaturally, especially for children. Okay, you're eating, I'm sorry. um I do not, let me explain something. I do not promote that person, Melina. The astrologist, he was one of the ones who was doing it. It's interesting you brought him up. He was one of the ones who was using occult rituals, and I've since denounced using or being interconnected with him. So we don't put his name in a link or into the chat, okay? Because we don't want to portal that being in here. Okay, so I'm just going to remove Melina. I'm just removing the comment because that isn't a being. That was one of the beings that I personally think tried to kill my mother. And I'm being honest, family. I had the conference. It was a big deal. I think I talked about it last year. These are the high masons that are hiding amongst us, who utilize the fact of trying to utilize forms of occultism to try to suppress or utilize it to latch on or parasite off of females that they feel have energy that they can cipher off of. And at the time, there was an attack on my mother. This was, I think I discussed this. I don't want to get too deep into this, but it also lets you know that there are males like that who will see females that they see have a lot of light, and also they will take the information that they gain off of them, and they will foresee how they can cipher off of it. Okay, this is a being that I knew for a while, that was going around telling people all over that I was in love with him. It's not a being I might even have ever been physically attracted to. He was doing it to people that, and we were friends, and he was doing this while we were friends. And I remember during a certain phase of moon, he showed up in my bed, and then I knew there were rituals being done on me. That's why you get, when you're heightened in awareness, you will see beings for who they are. And this was somebody that I was that I thought was close to, and they were doing this. And it wasn't until that reveal that everything else exposed itself. So I apologize. This is somebody. So I apologize for anyone who I promoted this person to. And again, Florburn learns very honestly, and I'm pretty transparent how I learn. So I realized at that point there wouldn't be any male that I would ever have attached to me or my platform that would have any say or any influence over me or anyone that I share things with. Okay. Oh, there was another one she asked twice. Okay, hold on. Can I have one? Oh, where am I? Let's see. I don't know where the other one is. Hold on, family. I don't see the other comment. Can someone find the other comment? Or Marlene, can you find your comment and just delete it, please? We don't want to summon beings to. We don't want to summon beings that are out of our frequency into our alignment. Whenever you call people's names, you also summon them. I don't see it. Okay, I don't see it, love. If you get a chance, Marlene, and it's nothing to you. You didn't know, so it's nothing to you. But can you just delete the comment? Okay. Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Vivian. I appreciate it. Okay, so that being said, we have to be mindful, our sea stars, and especially our young sea stars, our more seasoned sea stars. We learn this through wisdom of gaining and sleeping with men and being hurt, and we've learned a lot of that. We learned through just trial and error. I want to try to save some of our younger sea stars, because you have some of these master wizards out here, and they're under a cult. Their lecture set is having there are these sects of informational networks that are teaching young men how to cipher off of the female's yoni. and to cloak it. So they're ciphering off of the women's yoni and they're cloaking it so that the women don't know that these are what these men are. Okay, there are tons, and I told you about the conscious community that I got wind that two of the men, and I won't talk about them, the first, and that's why you hear me talk about them in the conscious community, two of them, they're brothers who are utilizing having sex with women in New York City in the parks, utilizing young women's yonis to do manifestation, and people were sleeping for days after having these orgies. Okay, because the young women didn't know. They're thinking these men are conscious, they speak very well, you know, they just don't know, and it's not their fault. I don't ever want to say anything because I was young. Some things you don't know and you just learn through trial and error, but I think we're at a pinnacle point. If we know better, it's good for us to share that information. So when I heard about that, and that was years ago, many of you heard me talk about that. I haven't saw those sun stars. They aren't even sun stars, they're demons. They were using the young females to do that. And the young females, I heard about them having orgies, and then people would have to sleep for days because they were being ciphered off of. Okay? Be mindful. Be mindful. And you know, I got to give props because he isn't my cup of tea, but one thing I will say, because you've heard me say this before, Brother Panic isn't my cup of tea, but one thing I will say is that man knows his occult knowledge because he studied under, what's his name? Bobby Hemmett. He studied under Bobby Hemmett, and he has a wealth of knowledge, and his wife is one of the best intuitives. I have issues with him on a personal level, but I will say Brother Panic is the only one. I got to give props where it's due. Okay? The only one who has intel to this degree that is of service and it is truthful and it is well vetted. He is the only one. I haven't heard anyone as balanced speaking. Now, he's a Satanist, but Satanism is something to a different level, and how he talks and how his connection with it is totally different. I don't dislike him because of that. It's other things. But he is well vetted, and he does know his knowledge. Got to give props to people. I can give props to anyone. He does. He's the only person that I knew had occult knowledge that can be that. He doesn't care if you like him either. That's one thing I say. He's balanced in that way. He's a true Satanist are like that. They don't care if you like them. It's just, you know, it's liking them is not part of their whole repertoire. Okay? So that's all it is. But he knows the most. I just say be careful with that frequency, because a frequency that comes with that kind of intel can also give you truths, but it can also give you insertions of darkness. Okay? Darkness. That's all. But he's the best at that. He is. Hands down. I haven't heard anybody. I know many occultists in this frequency, and he's the only one I know knows what he's talking about. I even think he supersedes some of the layering, the levels of intel past Bobby Hemmett. I think he took Bobby Hemmett's information and blew it to another level. Personally, I think that. I think he took a lot of what he learned from Bobby Hemmett and he evolved it to higher planes of consciousness. He did. Okay? So it's not to give him props, but it's to give him, yeah, it is to give him props for what he knows. He's the only person I know. All right, so family, I'm not going to get into too many longer. I have to, oh my gosh, am I late? Okay, I'm already late. So, I hope this was helpful. I can go a little bit onto this, but this is just a video to share. Yeah, he does give a lot of information for free. He does. And like, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't ask for anything in return. That's what I'm saying. There are people here on YouTube, and remember, there aren't a lot of people. That's why I say be careful with the larger platforms, because he has a very nominal platform. His platform doesn't have tons of subscribers, but that lets you know how much intel he's giving. The platforms, once a person supersedes a level of subscribers, they've been infiltrated. That's a fact. It isn't a guess, it's a fact. Even if they know it or not, they've been infiltrated. That means they aren't giving as much truth. His platform is very nominal. He doesn't have a lot of subscribers, but his information supersedes the level of intel that anybody could ever achieve. RFG does too. He's a little hostile, but RFG knows what he's talking about. That's another one. But the more that they rise in popularity in the Matrix, is the more depreciated their message is, because they won't promote something that is helpful for the general public. They just won't. You won't be in the algorithm. When I know I hit certain, when I know that I hit certain when I hit certain sensitivity within their brotherhood, is when they totally even they'll delete my stuff, or they'll totally mute it. They won't put it out there at all. Like I said, the majority of my platform is recommended base. I've had probably the same subscribers for a long period of time. That's why people have been with me for a long time. Y'all rock with me since 5 or 6 years ago. But the majority of other people that came from recommendations from other platforms, and it isn't required. I prefer you not share me, because I feel like this information and what I represent is something that is for those who are matching. So when you match me, you will find me. I won't be in an algorithm. I will be in your algorithm when we match each other. So I'm unworried about where I go, because when I saw them taking my subscribers on my studio, and it didn't match the subscribers on my page, I already knew, and it's all good in the hood. There isn't any issue with that, because it's as it should be. Why would I look that? Actually, that's a gift. It is a gift. Hold on. Okay. Are you gonna? Okay. Yes, you'll find me when you're supposed to. Some people dream about me before they even see the video. So I mean, we're matching frequencies, and sometimes we will match frequencies, and then we'll just part ways because you're going on to another frequency, and I'm going on to another frequency. So I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. You know, I always tell people on my platform, you don't have to agree with everything I say. I don't agree with all my girlfriends' statements or how they feel. My girlfriends don't agree with everything that I share. We have to be more rational too. Like, because somebody says something that you don't agree with doesn't mean you have to hate them or dislike them or just totally. That's part of the matrix. Demonizing people based on not agreeing with one person thing they say, then they're all evil. Okay, that isn't true. I may resonate with you now. I may not resonate with you in a. People will say that all the time. Be like, Flubber, I resonated with this, and I haven't seen you for a while, because they were on to other frequencies. And as soon as they started to be in a frequency again, they came back. Same likewise. So it's all good in the hood. All right. What else? I guess that's all I'm going to share here on this site. I don't want to share too much more, because I think when it's time for you to know more information. What's he doing? When it's time for you to know more information, it will be able to, you'll be able to gain it. I give you a little bit of the knowledge and intel I know in a healthy dose. I think giving too much when people don't earn it isn't healthy either. It's like it's always like doing things for your child and never allowing for them to gain the wisdom on themselves. I can give tools, I can give some of the information, kind of building the base, but the ingredients, the rest of the ingredients, you guys go and get those. You go and get those yourselves. I do that with my daughters. You know, my daughters, I tell my daughters all the time, you know, they like the way mommy does their hair. I was like, I want you to be self-efficient. I want you to know how to rock your hair. Mommy knows how to do your hair, but I want you to know the styles you want to do with your hair. So I have to allow them to grow in their own, even if they mess up, because that's part of you, and you'll respect the information better if you vet it out yourself. Like, I'll share things with you, but as soon as you learn things on your own that supersede anything I shared, you'll be more grateful, and you'll take that information and you'll have much more respect for it. When somebody gives you something too easily and effortlessly and you haven't earned it, it's just like people who get money. People who win lottery spend all their money because they don't have a respect for something they didn't feel like they earned. So all that money goes out. They're basically like the nouveau riche, right? The nouveau riche will get money and they just spend it all because there's no appreciation for it. It wasn't earned in a healthy, in a healthy way. Okay, and they probably aren't into the occultism because they don't even have a connection that frequencies matter, that maybe they earned it in deeds or another life where they gave a lot of money to someone and they gained it back. Oh, thank you, Narder. I appreciate it. Thank you. They're blocking subscribers. I have been currently blocked. I have random checked YouTube to catch your lives. Thank you. If they've been doing that for years. And that's why I say just check every time. I try to do lives. I do it sporadically. I don't give them heads up because I don't want them to follow my own routine. But that is what they do. But it also lets you know that we're on to something. I say we're because I learned things from you as well. So that means we're on to something. Thank you, Narda, for explaining, sharing that. We're on to something. Okay? So once we're on to something, that is a good way to detail that there is some truth. May not be all. Maybe there's some of the things I've learned that may not be totally vettable. Like maybe there's certain parts of the intel that I share, but if it's enough for them to mute or to try to keep people away, That'll also let you know that there's more truth than there isn't. I actually vet out that way. Whenever they block stuff, I'll be like, okay, I was onto it. All right. So resistance is sometimes a sign that resistance is also a sign that there's actually there's something to that. So yeah, you can check out my Patreon. I talk about sex and things like that. I don't like to get too guttural online. I don't think it's appropriate. And I have a lot of mommies, and I'm very sensitive of the little people. I have a lot of young people who watch me, and I want to make sure I'm very sensitive to their learning curves. I want to make sure I'm mindful of the development. I don't want to give, I want to refrain from giving too many things that are unhelpful, and I want to make sure that I'm protecting their peace of mind as well. So, you know, I have young people now. I notice my demographics have gotten younger as I've moved on in YouTube. It's interesting. My demographics was older. Remember that? I had, years ago, I had more people, more seasoned listening to me. And now I have more of my, you know, the young people, the millennials are like the 16, 17, 18. I'm getting the young people who are, and I don't know where that came from, but I guess they followed the frequency. They were matching. So I want to make sure I'm teaching the young ones. You know, sometimes mommies don't have the time, or maybe they don't have the intel. And I want to make sure that, you know, I'm service, you know, there isn't any fear that I'm installing, giving information that would be helpful to allow for them to engage in a way that is more cohesive and healthier for them. I think that's how you become a role model. You know what I mean? I share with you guys what I would share with my own little people. I really do. I wouldn't do anything any different. I treat people's children how I would treat myself. You know, so how I treat my own children. So I take that in consideration. And even when you guys are engaging with our young people, just be mindful. They're still young. They're in a different world, more electronically based. Be gingerly with them. I just ask that you do that because we have young people on here. And I think they need a little bit of gingerly, you know, I think they need some of us who are more seasoned to be more gingerly with giving them information and just allowing them to grow naturally. We may be scared for them sometimes or nervous, but we also understand that part of our life lessons, we had to fall off the bike a couple times until we could ride on a two-wheeler, right? How many scuffs did you get on your knees? How many times did you rip your knees up when you were riding your two-wheel? How many times did you fall and nearly break your face when you were skateboarding, right? But eventually, after a couple scrapes on your knees, a couple, you know, falls on your bum, right? You eventually mastered it. Those falls were your ingredients to become better at whatever you were desiring to do. So you mastered it by having, you know, basically, trial and error. We have to allow for that for our young people. So I want to give a little bit, but I don't want to give too much. I want them to gain their information on their own. I want to actually have them come back to me and see, LaFleur Brune, I heard what you said, but I took it further. I'm so excited when they do that. Be like, yeah, let me sit down and take notes, young ones. Let me take notes. You teach Fleur Brune. I want to know what you gained, because I can be taught as well. I'm not above and beyond that. So when the young ones come and they vetted stuff out and they superseded the information, just like Brother Panic did with Bobby Hemmett, you know, Brother Panic superseded the level that even Bobby Hemmett had. Bobby Hemmett was amazing in occult information, but, you know, Brother Panic, when you listen to him, he takes that to a whole nother level. That's evolving the information based on the frequency and the allotment of the different time frame, the different time that we're entering. So it's taking it and evolving it to higher frames of consciousness. And it's the same with the young people. So if you share things with them, allow them to gain their wisdom, you know, and let them fall a couple times. Don't, you know, make sure, be mindful. You don't want them to be removed from the matrix. You know, you got to give them that tough love sometimes. Be like, listen, you can't go out there doing craziness like that because you may lose your breath. But, you know, give them enough cultivation. We have a lot of young people on here, so just do that. And mommies, I think it's important. I come from a Creole family, so just realize a lot of times sexually when I share things, my family base is a little different. Culturally, Creole women are sexually healthy, especially if we haven't been tampered with. So if they come from, especially my culture, sexually we engage in this kind of conversation, and it allows for healthier sexual liaisons with males. I have a somewhat healthy relationship with males. The narcissist that I picked, the Nazi, was from being too naive. And I wish I had gained that a little bit earlier, that information, so I didn't stay too long, but I come from married people. So I stayed with you know, a narcissist. I stayed with my savage, my Nazi, too long. I just did. It's past its expiration date. So unfortunately, I could have just gained the information, but because I was conditioned and I was programmed to stay in marriages. You know, everybody in the family I have is married for long periods of time. We mate for life. We do in my family. And because I came from that programming, even when the marriage was unhealthy or toxic or even downright abusive, I stayed longer than I naturally would have if I didn't have that programming. Okay, that's all it was. And now, you know, Flurburn is very conscious. You know, I engage with males as necessary, and I will love I will love my males, but if they are harmful to my peace of mind and they aren't respectful of my boundaries and my spirituality, then they can go. And I'm okay with it. And I don't have to hate them, but I can let them go and release them and engage with someone who's more matching in my frequency. Okay? The more heightened in awareness, the less you'll have engagement with low feel males or females. Okay? The more aware of who you knowing who and what you are will allow for you to have better mating progression. All right, so I gotta go, family. I'm sorry. Yeah, if you check out the live, I think the live is still on. Check out the burning of the bra. I burned it last night. Black goo was all over the table. I actually stained my table a little bit. My table is like a beautiful crystal. I have a crystal. It actually has this beautiful table. But I burned it a little bit last night, burning the bras. Burned the bra last night. Say zero to braziers, okay? Hopefully past post shift we won't have to engage with the abuse of the bosoms anymore, okay? So hopefully check out my stuff on Patreon if you want. Oh, for those who want to see the conference, also you can access the conference on Patreon. So if you are unable to, last year I didn't do it because I just didn't want to, but this year you're able to access the conference and also the masquerade party. We're having in New Orleans for my conference on the 31st on Hallows Eve, and also on November 2nd is the conference in New Orleans in the Bayou. So if you're unable to make it, you can go, and if you subscribe now, you can access all the information I have on there already and then see the conference when it comes. So you can see everything I had on there, and then you can watch the conference or conference and masquerade the night. I already set it up, so you know, you can do that. All right, family, so I'm gonna go. He's over here prompting me to get my tushy up, okay? So I think hopefully I was helpful with this. I hope this information was helpful, and let me know if it was appropriate, and put a like on the video if you haven't already. Put a like on the video if you feel like this topic is worthy or you want to hear more about things like this. I won't do too much because some things I leave for Patreon. I think too much for people who aren't accessing it properly isn't healthy, but I think a lot of things need to be I think the empowerment or telling, not everyone's yoni is perfect or magic or necessarily going to manifest a house, a car, and a boat. But if you know how to protect and cultivate your own portal, your own Stargate, you can have an amazing existence in this hologram. Know who you are. Know how you chose your avatar. And if you have a pineal gland and a Stargate, you are far, far, far ahead of any other occult group, a brotherhood that has to cipher off of your energy to even coexist here. Okay, so I'm gonna go, family. I love you. Have a masterful day. We shall chat. I think it's Wednesday. I'm not okay. Show's tomorrow. We shall chat another time, and yeah, join me sometimes on the Instagram. All right. So I love you. Vivian already put my Instagram name. Thank you, Vivian. She already put my Instagram in there if you want to check out my Instagram. All right, family. I'm gone. Peace.